Something caused this break, Gil.
Yeah.
Something caused this break.
Yes, it did. It was Vanessa caused the break, so they had to be on the out.
At that point in time, he gonna be grown. You
Yeah.
can say, son, I don't think she, bro, half the team done been with her. But if he love her, ain't ish you can say.
By now, most fans know Kobe Bryant's parents were never fans of Vanessa, but now they're finally spilling the real reason, and it's way deeper than people expected. According to them, Vanessa wasn't just Kobe's girlfriend. She was the reason he distanced himself from his own blood, giving her full control over his life. This story is messy, dramatic, and full of twists. Let's rewind to where it all started. The seeds of love that turned into all-out war.
The parents disagreed. Like, I don't think you should marry her. Like, if you're young, you need a prenup. And the father, who's been an NBA player before,
Right.
is giving his knowledge to his son, right?
Yeah.
Well, if his girlfriend knows the parents don't like him, what happens when they get married? What is the girlfriend stand, or the wife now stands? The wife's
Right.
stand is, I don't mess with them.
Right.
Back in the late 1990s, Kobe Bryant was already rising as one of the NBA's brightest young stars. Coming from a true basketball family, his father, Joe Jellybean Bryant, being a former NBA player, Kobe had always been close to his parents. They cheered him on through his bold leap straight from high school into the NBA, and for a while, the Bryants looked like a united front chasing greatness together. But everything flipped in November 1999, the day Kobe met Vanessa Lane on the set of a music video for Taz.
I sit here in front of you guys, furious at myself, disgusted at myself for making a mistake of adultery. You know, I love my wife with all my heart. She's backbone.
Good up, Vanessa. She was only 17 at the time, still a high school student grinding as a background dancer, while Kobe was 21 and already a superstar on the rise. Kobe was already a rising NBA star, and the spark between him and Vanessa was instant, intense to the point where many would later call it an obsession. From the jump, Kobe's family wasn't just concerned, they were alarmed. The controversy wasn't only about the age gap, though that alone had people whispering. It was about everything Vanessa represented in Joe and Pamela Bryant's eyes. Vanessa, with her Mexican and Irish background, symbolized the complete opposite of what Kobe's parents had pictured for their son's future.
This is what Kobe told ESPN. Our relationship isn't ish. I say, I'm going to buy you a very nice home, and the response is, that's not good enough? Then you're selling my ish?
Sources close to the family claim Joe and Pam had a very clear vision of who Kobe should marry, and it definitely didn't include a teenage Latina girl with no elite ties, no powerful family name, and no high society background. Then came the shocker that shook the Bryants to their core. Just 6 months after meeting, by May 2000, Kobe dropped to one knee and proposed to Vanessa on her 18th birthday. To Joe and Pamela, this wasn't a love story, it was a nightmare come true. Their 21-year-old son was diving headfirst into a marriage they believed would ruin everything. But the real controversy, the one that poisoned the Bryant family for decades, wasn't just about age or social class. It ran way deeper into a dark and uncomfortable truth.
One thing I hate more than anything from a person is ungratefulness. Now, a guy, Steph Curry, I went to the game Saturday.
According to multiple accounts from relatives, close friends, and media insiders, Joe and Pamela's biggest issue wasn't Vanessa's age at all. It was the fact that she wasn't African American. They wanted Kobe to marry within his own community, and Vanessa didn't fit that image. This wasn't just cultural preference. It was prejudice, plain and simple. A 2020 report even revealed that Joe's rejection was tied directly to Vanessa's Mexican roots. Family friends later admitted that this bias was one of the most heartbreaking wounds in the Bryant household. Imagine, Vanessa had done nothing wrong except fall in love, yet she was treated like she didn't belong. And things only got uglier from there. Joe and Pam didn't just disapprove, they started pulling every trick to stop the relationship. Sources claim they wanted Kobe with someone more polished, more acceptable, and they insisted he was way too young to tie himself down.
Something caused this break, Gil. Something caused this break.
Yes, it did. It was Vanessa caused the break.
Behind closed doors, they painted his devotion to Vanessa as dangerous, calling it an obsession that could derail his legendary basketball career before it even reached its peak. Things exploded when Kobe and Vanessa revealed their wedding plans. On April 18, 2001, the two tied the knot at St. Edward the Confessor Catholic Church in Dana Point, California, in an intimate ceremony with barely a dozen guests. But the most shocking part? Kobe's parents, Joe and Pam, and even his sisters, Sharia and Shea, were nowhere to be seen. This wasn't some scheduling conflict or harmless family spat. This was a cold, calculated snub. The Bryants wanted the world to know loud and clear. They did not support this marriage, and they didn't care if it meant humiliating their own son on one of the biggest days of his life.
They're cut off. So the wife cuts off the parents no matter what. So now Kobe is trying to feed them in the back end.
The sting of that absence marked the beginning of a painful 2-year estrangement. Kobe, freshly married and still climbing the NBA ladder, was cut off from the people who raised him. The silence only cracked in 2003 when the birth of Natalia briefly brought the family back together. But even then, the scars ran deep. One of the most heartbreaking examples of this ongoing rift came during what should have been one of Kobe's happiest milestones as a young superstar. After the Lakers crushed the Philadelphia 76ers in the 2001 NBA Finals, right in Kobe's own hometown, the celebration should have been a dream come true, but instead, it was bittersweet. His parents refused to show up, once again boycotting a milestone moment in their son's life, all because of Vanessa.
How much did he talk to you about this stage of the career and how the body has to react in different ways?
That, unfortunately, we don't talk much. You know, maybe down the road that relationship would be better, but right now it's not much of one.
One photo from that night says it all. Kobe standing there, championship trophy in hand, yet looking somber, almost lonely, despite the confetti falling around him. Imagine that. A young man had just reached the pinnacle of basketball, winning a title on his home turf, and his own family chose not to celebrate. The message was loud and brutal. Their resentment for Vanessa outweighed their pride in Kobe's legendary achievement. And the rift didn't stop there. It only got messier once money entered the picture. From early on, Kobe poured financial support into Vanessa's family, buying homes and helping them out in ways that his parents quietly resented. Joe and Pamela watched their son shower Vanessa's side with generosity, while they felt pushed further into the margins, stuck in a place where they were emotionally distant and financially dependent. This sparked an ugly, unspoken rivalry. Every dollar Kobe spent became symbolic. Every gift, every house, every check looked like a scoreboard of loyalty. His parents believed Vanessa's family was getting all the benefits while they were left with scraps. Whether that was true or not didn't even matter. The perception alone fueled the feud and turned family dinners into battlefields that never even happened.
60s and 70s, so Kobe was taking care of them. Now they're cut off.
As the years rolled on, the distance between Kobe and his parents only grew wider. That brief reconciliation after Natalia's birth, it was nothing more than a Band-Aid on a wound that never healed. And the worst part, the real explosion hadn't even happened yet. A betrayal so massive, so public, it shattered what little was left of the Bryant family bond. By 2013, Kobe and Vanessa had already been through battles that would have destroyed most couples. The biggest test came back in 2003 with the Colorado scandal, when Kobe admitted to infidelity but denied the assault allegations. The revelation of adultery rocked their marriage to its core, but Vanessa shocked the world by standing beside him at press conferences and court hearings, never wavering in public. That storm nearly broke them, but instead it revealed just how much Vanessa was willing to endure to keep their family together. Meanwhile, Kobe later confessed that the stress of the case had been so heavy, he believed it contributed to a heartbreaking miscarriage in 2005. The emotional toll was crushing, and it showed just how high the price of fame and scandal could be for a young family. And where were his parents during all this chaos? Their support was inconsistent, faint, and sometimes non-existent. The contrast was glaring. Vanessa stood tall in the fire, while Joe and Pam drifted in the background. The so-called peace that Natalia's birth had sparked was nothing but smoke. Underneath, the foundation of this family was already cracked and ready to collapse. After Vanessa filed for divorce in 2011, citing irreconcilable differences fueled by Kobe's rumored affairs, the couple shocked everyone by calling it off and recommitting to each other in 2013. Their love story looks stronger than ever, but while Kobe and Vanessa were rebuilding their marriage, the bond with his parents was about to hit a point of no return. What came next exposed just how deep Joe and Pamela Bryant's resentment toward Vanessa ran and how far they were willing to go for money and control. In 2013, Kobe's own parents tried to cash in by auctioning off his personal treasures without his permission. We're talking high school memorabilia, championship rings, and priceless keepsakes, all put on the block so Joe and Pam could bankroll their lifestyle and snag a new house. And this wasn't some garage sale of old junk. The stash was valued at more than $450,000. Loaded with irreplaceable pieces that told Kobe's story, from teenage prodigy to NBA legend. The boldness of this move was jaw-dropping. It wasn't just betrayal, it was a public swipe at Kobe's legacy, a statement that his success was theirs to sell off like merchandise. Imagine finding out your own parents had taken the most sacred pieces of your life, trophies of blood, sweat, and tears, and tried to flip them for cash without even asking. For Kobe, this wasn't just about memorabilia, this was betrayal on the deepest level, a wound that cut right through trust itself. The fallout was immediate. Kobe didn't hesitate. He hit them in the auction house with a lawsuit. The case was eventually settled out of court, but by then, the family bond was shattered beyond repair. And what made it all sting even worse? This wasn't some story of struggling parents doing what they had to do to survive. Not at all. Kobe had been financially supporting Joe and Pam for years, making sure they were more than taken care of. But now their family drama was dragged into the spotlight, with tabloids feasting on every messy detail of the Bryants' finances.
Kobe was known as a fierce competitor on the basketball court. The greatest of all time, a writer, an Oscar winner, and the Black Mamba. But to me, he was Kobe, my boo-boo, my baby-boo, my papi chulo. We wanted us to renew our vows. He wanted Natalia to take over his company, and he wanted to travel the world together. We had always talked about how we'd be the fun grandparents to our daughter's children.
To calm the backlash, Joe and Pam released a public apology saying, "We regret our actions and statements related to the Kobe Bryant memorabilia auction. We apologize for any misunderstanding and unintended pain we have caused our son, and we appreciate the financial support he has provided over the years." But for Kobe, those words meant nothing. The damage was permanent, the pain too raw. By the time he opened up in that infamous 2016 ESPN interview, Kobe didn't hold back. He let the world see exactly how betrayed he felt and how fractured his family ties had truly become. This wasn't Kobe lashing out in the heat of the moment. This was years of bottled-up frustration finally erupting. His words cut deep because they exposed a pattern that went way beyond that 2013 auction. The sale of his memorabilia wasn't an isolated scandal. It was the breaking point. Proof of what Kobe had long suspected. His parents saw him less as their son and more as their personal bank account. The money dynamic inside the Bryant family had always been tricky, but the auction ripped the curtain off the ugly truth. Kobe had been carrying the financial weight since he was 17. Before he could even legally buy a drink, he was already a millionaire and supporting his family. But somewhere along the way, it stopped feeling like generosity and started feeling like obligation. The perception grew louder and clearer. Joe and Pam acted like they were entitled to more, like Kobe's success automatically belonged to them. His championships, his contracts, his fame, it was as if they believed it all came with a built-in payday for themselves, no matter how fractured the relationship became. That auction was never just about dusty rings or old jerseys. It was a symbol of broken respect, shattered boundaries, and the heartbreaking question Kobe had to face. Did his parents truly see him as their son, or had they reduced him to nothing more than a meal ticket? The fact that Joe and Pam tried to sell Kobe's prized possessions without even asking made one thing painfully clear. They didn't see him as a son. They saw him as a payday. And that realization devastated Kobe to his core. But the weight of this family war didn't just fall on him. It fell heavily on Vanessa, too. She wasn't only facing constant rejection from her in-laws, she was also stuck navigating the messy financial battles where she was often painted as the bad influence pulling Kobe away from his parents. Plenty of Kobe's old teammates and friends have even suggested that Vanessa was the driving force behind the estrangement. The argument goes like this. When parents don't approve of a spouse, and that spouse feels the hostility, they start seeing the parents as a threat to the marriage. And that tension only gets worse with time. In Vanessa's case, she wasn't just battling normal family friction. She was battling hostility laced with prejudice. Feeling cornered, she likely pushed Kobe to make a choice, either protect their marriage or keep bending to his parents. And when the moment came, Kobe chose his wife. That choice cemented the divide. His parents never forgave it, and from that point on, the line between them and their son was permanent. And when the memorabilia scandal hit, it wasn't just about money anymore. It was about revenge, resentment, and a family feud that had gone way past the point of no return.
Bro, they got no money. You can't be mad because they're selling the rings. The money wasn't left to them. They trying to eat.
The fallout from the scandal was swift and brutal. The legal mess might have been settled, but what followed was far worse. 3 long years of total silence between Kobe and his parents. This wasn't just a family taking space to cool off. This was a full-blown severing of ties that lasted all the way until Kobe's retirement. And the world saw the pain play out publicly. When Kobe stepped onto the court for his legendary final NBA game in 2016, his parents were nowhere in sight. No hugs, no proud smiles, no family reunion, just their glaring absence on one of the most important nights of his life. The symbolism was brutal. One of the greatest athletes to ever play the game was saying goodbye, and his own parents couldn't be bothered to show up. Behind the scenes, the financial drama revealed another ugly truth. Years earlier, Kobe had cut off financial support to his sisters, urging them to build independence. But with Joe and Pam, things were different. They always wanted more, and Kobe believed their demands were endless. To him, it wasn't about being stingy. It was about drawing a line, setting boundaries, and proving that love couldn't be measured in dollar signs. The emotional weight of that estrangement bled into Kobe's interviews and his body language during this time. You could see it, success on the court, but an empty space where family should have been. Here was a man who had reached the absolute peak of success. Championships, MVPs, global fame, yet he carried the unbearable weight of being estranged from his own parents. The sting of knowing they had chosen money over their bond with him was a wound Kobe never fully shook off. But in this tragedy, there's another side to consider: Joe and Pamela Bryant's perspective. Were they simply greedy parents cashing in on their son's fortune? Or were they caught in a storm that spun out of control with wounds too deep to repair? Some argue Joe and Pam were trapped in an impossible reality, raising a son who became one of the most iconic athletes in history, yet feeling pushed to the sidelines because of their unrelenting disapproval of his wife. And then came the unthinkable, the helicopter crash on January 26th, 2020, that killed Kobe, his daughter Gianna, and 7 others. That moment should have united the Bryant family in grief, a chance to finally put all disputes aside. Death usually forces perspective, stripping away pride and reminding people of what really matters. But for the Bryants, even tragedy wasn't enough to heal the wounds. Years of financial battles, racial tension, and stubborn pride had carved a canyon so wide that not even death could close it. Instead of reunion, the fracture remained. A painful reminder that sometimes even the deepest grief can't rewrite the scars of a broken family. In the months before his death, Kobe had reportedly begun working toward reconciling with his parents, guided by his faith and a growing desire to heal family wounds. But fate cut that journey short with the tragic crash, leaving behind a haunting what if. The idea that true peace might have been possible makes the story all the more heartbreaking. In the aftermath of the tragedy, Joe and Pam Bryant did attend the public memorial. They didn't speak, but their presence alone was heavy with meaning. It was proof that no matter how fractured the bond had become, the ties of family never fully disappeared, even if they were hanging on by a thread. But it was Vanessa who stole the moment, delivering one of the most powerful, gut-wrenching speeches ever heard at a memorial. She spoke with raw honesty, painting a picture of the love she and Kobe shared, the dreams they had been building, and the future they had planned, a future cruelly taken away. For Kobe's parents sitting in the crowd, that speech must have been both comforting and crushing at the same time. To hear firsthand about the life their son had built, the family he had cherished, and the dreams he had dreamed with Vanessa. It was a reminder of everything they had lost, not just to tragedy, but to years of resentment and silence. For Joe and Pam, Kobe's memorial wasn't just a reminder of their son. It was a painful reminder of all the moments they had missed and the grandchildren they barely knew because of years of estrangement. And after Kobe's passing, things only got more complicated. Speculation quickly surfaced that his parents had been left out of his inheritance entirely, since his estate went primarily to Vanessa and their daughters. That revelation set off a firestorm of debate. Observers began questioning whether Vanessa had a moral responsibility to step in and support Kobe's parents despite the ugly history. But the truth was clear. Kobe's will, structured as a family trust, was deliberate. His fortune went to Vanessa, Natalia, Bianca, and Capri. No provisions for Joe, Pam, or his sisters. This wasn't some legal loophole or accident. It was a choice, a reflection of where the family bond stood when Kobe died. The exclusion sent shockwaves through the basketball world. Suddenly, people weren't just talking about Kobe's legacy on the court. They were arguing about family loyalty, cultural obligations, and the messy reality of money when fame and estrangement collide. At the time of his death, Kobe's estate was estimated at roughly $600 million, a number that only grew posthumously through smart investments and branding deals. But none of that wealth trickled down to his parents, and the impact showed fast.
My question for Vanessa: are you going to pay for that man's homegoing ceremony? And don't get me wrong, I believe Shaquille O'Neal and a lot of Kobe's friends and other stars, they're going to make sure his father get put away right. I absolutely believe that. But Vanessa, I believe you have an obligation to see to it that Kobe's father gets put away right. Are you going to do that? But let's take it a step further, Art. Kobe's mother. Kobe's mother is still walking. She's still with us. Vanessa Bryant, are you going to take care of Kobe's?
By March 2024, Joe and Pam were back in headlines when they auctioned off Kobe's 2000 NBA championship ring, a gift he had once given his father, for a staggering $927,000. To the public, it looked like history repeating itself. Another painful chapter in a family saga defined by love, loss, and betrayal. The backlash was instant and brutal. Fans and media alike blasted the symbolism. Kobe's own parents forced to sell off his championship memorabilia, while his widow sat on a fortune big enough to make sure they'd never know financial struggle. It was a scene that cut deep, stirring emotions far beyond just basketball. The auction lit a firestorm of debate, splitting opinions across cultural and racial lines. In the African-American community especially, questions surfaced about whether Vanessa had a moral duty to support Kobe's parents, no matter their history. Former NBA star Gilbert Arenas even jumped into the fray, defending Joe Bryant. He suggested the ring sale was born out of necessity and hinted that Vanessa should have stepped in to buy it back, implying she was the one pulling the strings of the Bryant fortune. But the loudest and most explosive criticism came from Dr. Umar Johnson, a controversial activist and psychologist who didn't hold back in a June 2024 interview. He torched Vanessa for allegedly failing to offer Kobe's parents any financial help. Despite inheriting the bulk of Kobe's $600 million empire, his words were sharp, raw, and racially charged. You mean to tell me you don't have enough decency to give his parents $1 million apiece? They're elders. They need some money. From what I've heard, Vanessa Bryant ain't giving them a thing. Johnson tied his critique to bigger themes about Black wealth retention, sparking one of the most heated debates in the aftermath of Kobe's legacy. Dr. Umar Johnson's attack went even further, accusing Vanessa, a Mexican-American woman, of failing to use Kobe's fortune to uplift the Black community. The racial undertones were impossible to ignore, and his comments reopened an old wound. They echoed the same criticisms whispered decades earlier that Joe and Pam had disapproved of Vanessa partly because of her Mexican heritage and their wish for Kobe to marry within the African-American community. It was as if the saga had come full circle, dragging everyone back to the very tensions that tore the family apart more than 20 years ago. And then tragedy struck again. On July 16, 2024, Joe Bryant passed away at age 69 from a stroke. The news hit the basketball world hard, but all eyes turned to Vanessa, waiting to see how she would respond. Her statement was calm, respectful, but layered. "We were sad to hear of Joe's passing. We hoped things would have been different. Although the times we spent together were few, he was always sweet and nice to be around. Kobe loved him very much." To some, her words sounded like grace in the face of family turmoil. To others, they were a subtle jab, a reminder of the years of bitterness that had never truly healed. Even in death, the Bryant family feud couldn't escape the shadows of resentment, pride, and unresolved pain. The phrase, "we hoped things would have been different," cut deep. It hinted that even in death, there was no real reconciliation, no clean closure to decades of family pain. And almost immediately after Joe's passing, Dr. Umar Johnson turned up the heat again. This time, he blasted Vanessa directly, insisting she had a moral duty to cover Joe's funeral expenses and provide for Pam, arguing that she owed everything to the family who raised Kobe, the man who built the fortune she now controlled. But the fire didn't stop with him. Social media erupted into chaos, turning into a battleground of clashing views. On one side, critics leaned into cultural expectations, posting comments like, "Without Kobe Bryant's parents, there would be no Kobe Bryant." To them, Vanessa's inheritance wasn't just her legal right. It carried a moral responsibility to honor Kobe's bloodline, no matter how rocky the past had been. On the other side, Vanessa's defenders fought back hard. They pointed out that Kobe himself had made the decision to exclude his parents from his will, and that choice needed to be respected. Comments like,
Right.
You had to have done something really poorly, really bad choices, poor choices for your daughter to put you out of the house and take away your vehicle.
Vanessa Bryant is not to blame for Kobe Bryant not making provisions for his own parents, became rallying cries for those who believed legal autonomy and personal boundaries mattered more than tradition or cultural pressure. In the end, the feud wasn't just about money, it became a public showdown between morality and legality, blood ties and chosen loyalty, leaving Kobe's legacy forever tangled in the drama of family, fortune, and fractured love. The complexity of this saga only grew clearer when Vanessa found herself facing almost the same drama within her own family. In December 2020, her mother, Sophia Lane, slapped her with a $5 million lawsuit, claiming Kobe had promised lifelong support and accusing Vanessa of evicting her after his death. Vanessa fired back hard, calling the lawsuit frivolous extortion, insisting no such promises were ever made and pointing out that her mother had only babysat occasionally. The parallels were impossible to ignore. Just like with Joe and Pam, this was another parental figure demanding financial entitlement from Kobe's fortune. And once again, Vanessa stood her ground and resisted. It showed that maybe the issue wasn't just about race or cultural expectations at all, but about something bigger. The messy, often ugly question of how family and money collide in the shadow of celebrity wealth. Stepping back, two painful truths came into focus. First, the Bryant family dysfunction wasn't created by Kobe's death. It was only magnified by it. The money disputes, the resentment, the racial undertones, the power struggles, they had been there for decades, only taking new shape after tragedy struck. Second, the scandal revealed something even broader about American society itself: the uneasy intersection of race, wealth, and family duty. The harsh criticism Vanessa faced wasn't just about her personal choices, it reflected a bigger cultural battle over what children owe their parents, what widows owe their in-laws, and how money changes the very meaning of family ties. At its core, this saga was never just about money. It was about deeper questions of racial loyalty, cultural duty, and community responsibility. The fact that Vanessa was Latina rather than African American added another layer of tension, fueling debates that went far beyond the Bryant household. Her position was almost impossible. On one hand, she was criticized for not sharing Kobe's wealth with his parents. On the other, she was praised for protecting her daughter's inheritance. Every move she made was judged under a harsh spotlight, with public opinion slicing her role between villain and protector. And perhaps the most heartbreaking truth? This story shows how pride and prejudice can rip apart even the strongest of family bonds. What started as disapproval of an interracial marriage snowballed into decades of betrayal, resentment, and financial warfare. By the time death intervened, the wounds were already too deep, the scars too permanent to heal. Even former NBA star Sebastian Telfair, who faced his own family chaos, spoke out with raw emotion, echoing the frustration of so many who watched this feud play out. His words captured the heartbreak of seeing families destroyed by money, ego, and unhealed grudges. And yet, even now in 2025, the story isn't fully closed. Joe Bryant has passed, no reconciliation between Vanessa and Pam has ever been reported, and the feud has quietly slipped from headlines. Today, Vanessa has shifted her focus, raising her daughters and protecting Kobe's legacy through the Mamba and Mambachita Sports Foundation. But the questions, the drama, and the pain remain etched into the Bryant legacy forever. So what do you think? Was Vanessa right to protect her daughters and honor Kobe's wishes? Or did she have a responsibility to his parents no matter what? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And I'll see you on the next one.